देखा और इतना रिकॉर्डिंग शुरू कीजिएगा, इंडिकेशन हो रिकॉर्डिंग कीजिए।
ठीक है, बस स्टार्ट करें। Hello, final year students. This is me, Dr. Ashok Kumar Lohana, and I have assigned the chapter infectious diseases. So we will discuss on every Monday few common infectious diseases. Today we are going to discuss malaria. It is very common infectious disease in our country. Almost most of the patients suffer during these rainy seasons. I hope you all are hearing me adequately. So let's start with malaria. After the end of lecture, we will discuss with you with your important questions. So what is malaria? The definition, malaria is a protozoal disease, everyone knows, caused by a parasite of genus Plasmodium and transmitted to people through the bite of certain species of infected female Anopheline mosquito. So most common species of the malaria, look at the slide. On the top, the Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium ovale, Plasmodium malariae, Plasmodium falciparum, Plasmodium novelaceae. Now, out of these five, Plasmodium ovale and malariae, they are not common in our country. They are mostly seen in African countries. Second important thing out of all five, the severe malaria, which is lethal, dangerous, mostly presented with complications, is out of five, that is most common Plasmodium falciparum. As far as Plasmodium knowlesi is concerned, this species identified few years back, and you might heard the cases were reported in Karachi. They were presented with meningoencephalitis and high mortality rate in Plasmodium knowlesi. However, it's not very common. So most common in Pakistan, almost Plasmodium vivax and falciparum. Now, see the pattern of fever in Plasmodium vivax and ovale. It is benign tertian malaria. Tertian means patient present with fever every third day. So it is rarely fatal. As far as even cerebral malaria is concerned with P. vivax is not very common. However, few cases were reported in India, but it's not very common. So it is mostly benign. Patient present with intermittent fever, every third day fever. Relapse may occur because dormant hypnozoites reside in the liver. So hypnozoites, how they form, we will discuss in the life cycle of the malaria. Second species is ovale. That is also benign tertian malaria, but mild and can be cured. Plasmodium malariae, that causes quatern malaria, means patient present with fever every after 72 hours, or you can say every fourth day, intermittent fever. No exoerythrocytic stage, but relapse may occur. In falciparum, that is also called malignant tertian malaria. It is a severe form of malaria. It is rarely relapsed. We already discussed it can present with severe manifestations and can lead to high mortality rate if untreated. Transmission, how malarial parasite transmitted. So most commonly female anopheles, that is mosquito. When mosquito bite, it ingests sporozoites and further it complete life cycle. We are going to discuss on coming slide. Contaminated blood transfusion, if we transfuse unscreened blood, that leads to transmission of malaria apart from HIV, hepatitis B, C, syphilis. Injecting drug user, sharing needles, hospital acquired infection, suppose patient is admitted with pneumonia, UTI, any comorbidities in the hospital and patient facing malarial parasites in that environment, he can acquire malaria. Contaminated equipment, congenital from mother to fetus is also can be transmitted. Which peoples are on risk with malaria? So commonly young children, non-immune pregnant women, people with HIV, AIDS, international travelers from non-endemic areas. Now, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, they are endemic areas, you know, Africa, but European countries, there is no malaria, are very rare. So when they travel to endemic areas where malaria is common, they are high risk to acquire malarial parasite. Immigrants and their children as well. So malaria affect mainly poor, undeserved and marginalized population in remote rural areas, splenectomized people. Now see the malarial life cycle of the malaria. Look at the number one. Now injection of parasite, female Anopheles mosquito through the skin. Then sporozoites, they ingest sporozoites. Sporozoites multiply in the liver and converted into the schizones. They remain maybe dormant in the liver. So sporozoites ultimately they release from the liver, converted into the merozoites. They become merozoites when they enter into the circulation. So invasion, multiplication in red cells. Initially, they form early trophozoites, then late trophozoites, immature schizones, mature schizones. So schizones, they may remain in the dormant in the liver. That's why they causes relapsing malaria. Means once we treat the patient and again he is developing symptoms, we diagnose malaria, that may be due to relapse because of the dormant schizones. So that's why we need treatment also during treatment of malaria to eradicate the schizones from the liver. We will discuss for treatment as far as treatment is concerned. So I'm going to repeat again. When Anopheles mosquito bite skin, it releases ingest sporozoites in the skin. They enter into the liver, multiply, and multiply. After multiplication, they release into the circulation RBCs. RBCs where they converted into the merozoites, and merozoites they complete formation of gametocytes. So how this life cycle is completed. Pathogenesis, the pathology of malaria is related to anemia, cytokine release, and Plasmodium falciparum. So anemia is multifactorial in malaria. Hemolysis are infected red blood cells. Direct hemolysis when RBC is infected with Plasmodium malaria. Second, they may be hemolyzed due to hypersplenism, sequestration of RBCs. Hemolysis are non-infected red cells like black water fever, that is complication of falciparum malaria. It's also called algid malaria. So that present with dysentery like amoebic and bacillary dysentery. So when patient will visit to you, he will present with blood containing stools, fever with chills as in amoebic and bacterial dysentery. So loss of blood through the stool can be the reason of anemia. Dyserythropoiesis, splenomegaly and sequestration, we discussed folate depletion, they all are reasons for anemia in patient having a malaria. Plasmodium falciparum due to impaired microcirculation, you know, when RBCs become parasitized, they causes ischemia, means clumping of RBCs or parasitized RBCs widespread. So ultimately they lead to decreased perfusion to vital organs that can lead to damage of organ as we said black water fever like kidney, they may develop acute kidney injury. Even as far as falciparum cerebral malaria is concerned, that also caused because of tissue hypoxia. Hypoxia due to clumping of parasitized RBCs. Ultimately, they lead to decreased perfusion to the brain. That's why patients develop seizures, altered level of consciousness. So cytokine release in Plasmodium falciparum, red cells containing schizons adhere to lining of capillaries in the brain, kidney, gut, liver, and other organs, causing mechanical obstruction. These schizons rupture, releasing toxin, stimulate further cytokine release. So this mechanism also for cerebral malaria, how patient present with cerebral malaria. So ultimately, that leads to decreased tissue perfusion. People who protect against malaria are people who have a Duffy antigen on red cell membrane, hemoglobinopathies like thalassemia, sickle cell trait, thalassemia trait. People who have a G6PD deficiency, they are not affected with malarial parasites because of patient have a deficiency of enzyme, so early hemolysis can occur. So completion of life cycle of the malaria as far as red cells are concerned, they are lacking, and that's why they are protected. Now come to the clinical features as far as malaria is concerned. So patient mostly present with fever, fever with chills, associated symptom start from the top. Patient may present with headache apart from fever, chills, sweating, muscular pain, severe body ache, myalgia, backache, spleen enlargement. Patient can present with pain in left hypochondrium, GI upset, upper abdomen discomfort, nausea, vomiting. These are the symptoms of uncomplicated malaria, dry cough. Complicated malaria, we will discuss on coming slides. So again, repeating clinical features, onset mostly gradual, can be sudden in falciparum, anorexia, headache, fever with chills. Paroxysmal means episodic, malarial paroxysms. As we discussed previously, tertian and quatern fever means every third and fourth day. They are called paroxysms. Can be divided into three clinical stages. With fever is concerned, cold, hot, and sweating. Cold stage, the patient feels intense cold. He shivers from head to foot. His teeth chatter and cover himself with a blanket. This stage lasts for 30 minutes to 1 hour. After that, patient present feel hot. He will unwrap the blankets. So shivering will stop and patient will feel intense heat, perspiration through off the blanket. Sweating stage, I repeated perspiration, that is sweating stage. Patient breaks into profuse perspiration. Temperature rapidly declines with feeling of relief. So it can present spontaneously as the stages are concerned. Sometimes patient if taking antipyretic during the fever, that can lead to also perspiration. Now, again, P. vivax and ovale, the paroxysm is repeated 48 hours later. This already I discussed. Relatively mild anemia developed slowly, maybe tender hepatomegaly. Apart from anemia, patient may present with hepatomegaly as far as examination is concerned. So spontaneous recovery within 2 to 6 weeks, but hypnozoites and liver can cause relapse of many years. I already discussed. Paroxysm repeated every third day, mild illness and malaria. It's not common in Pakistan, mostly in Africa. And one more important thing I want to tell you, the Plasmodium malaria, apart from these clinical features, fever, headache, myalgia, it can cause nephrotic syndrome, but that is most common in children. Falciparum, this is more dangerous as compared to other forms of malaria. Majority of malarial deaths are due to Plasmodium falciparum. So severe malaria, if anyone asks you what is severe malaria, you can say it is a complication of falciparum malaria characterized by signs of severe illness, organ dysfunction, high parasite load, peripheral parasitemia greater than 5% or greater than 2 lakh parasites per microliter. It is principally as a result of falciparum infection because this species uniquely infect erythrocytes of all ages and mediates sequestration of infected erythrocytes in small blood vessels, thereby evading clearance of infected erythrocytes by the spleen. So this already I told, when RBCs become parasitized, it impairs microcirculation. All severe complications associated with falciparum like cerebral malaria, blackwater fever, algid malaria, they occur because of impaired microcirculation that leads to hypoxia and complications. Now, classification of malaria classified into severe and uncomplicated by WHO. It is severe when any of following criteria is present, otherwise it is considered uncomplicated. So in previous slide, we discussed clinical features from fever, headache, body ache, hepatosplenomegaly. They all are uncomplicated malaria and we mostly come across these patients on OPD basis. However, yes, in severe malaria, when all these features are present, we mostly need to hospitalize the patient for management, and we also work up for differential diagnosis. Apart from severe falciparum malaria, there may be other possibilities like other CNS infections, meningitis, brain abscess, encephalitis. We will hospitalize these patients and again see if there is any changes in the conscious level, we will look patient as far as GCS is concerned, decreased conscious level or any fits, uh, drowsy, significant weakness such that person is unable to walk, unable to feed, inability to feed, two or more convulsion fits, blood pressure, low blood pressure, mostly hypotension, that is also part of severe malaria, breathing problems, acidosis that can be due to metabolic acidosis, or even non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema, circulatory shock, kidney failure, we discussed acute kidney injury, bleeding problem, is patient present with hematuria and blood in the stool, even sometimes due to severe pancytopenia secondary to hypersplenism can lead to thrombocytopenia. Patient may start bleeding apart from rashes. Severe hypoglycemia as far as rapid hemolysis is concerned, that lead to hypoglycemia. So blood sugar will be decreased because of a severe hemolysis. So this is most commonly seen in children and old age people. However, in adults can be possible. Lactate level greater than 50 millimole acidosis, lactate level will be increased. So apart from clinical features, we will further look at peripheral smear parasite level in blood greater than 1 lakh per microliter in low intensity transmission area and 2,50,000 per microliter in high intensity area. High intensity area means hyperendemic areas. So like Sindh and Thatta, Badin, Hyderabad, they are endemic, hyperendemic areas as compared to Middle Sindh. Clinical forms of falciparum malaria, cerebral malaria, marked elevation in body temperature, headache, rapid deterioration in consciousness, convulsion, coma, and death if not early identified or diagnosed and not early treated. Algid malaria, algid malaria or malarial dysentery synonymous. So they present with severe vomiting, diarrhea, and peripheral circulatory collapse. Here it is written algid material, but it's not algid material, algid malaria. Spelling error. Septicemic malaria, high continuous fever, vomiting, spontaneous splenic rupture, that is more dangerous complication of acute severe malaria. Blackwater fever or acute kidney injury that produce dark brown black urine owing to intravascular hemolysis and precipitated by abrupt onset of a fever, marked hemolysis, hemoglobin urea. Hemoglobin urea occur due to intravascular hemolysis. Vomiting, circulatory collapse, where there will be severe hemolysis, the patient will present with a circulatory collapse, and circulatory collapse will further lead to decreased renal perfusion, and patient will present with acute renal failure. Complications, we already discussed all. Now look as far as the systems are concerned. So system-wise, CNS, it causes cerebral malaria, repeated seizures, febrile seizures, you can say febrile epilepsy, and coma, renal hemoglobin oliguria, acute kidney injury, renal failure, billet, hemolytic anemia, DIC, metabolic, hypoglycemia, metabolic acidosis, GIT liver are concerned. Patient may present with diarrhea, jaundice. Why jaundice? Because of hemolysis. So patient will present with unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia. So you will look at the LFT that will show increased indirect bilirubin. Mostly indirect bilirubin doesn't go beyond 7 milligram as far as hemolytic jaundice is concerned. And the second thing you will look in the LFT, SGPT will be raised, but not significantly as in hepatocellular jaundice. Splenic rupture, patient will present with severe pain and left hypochondrium. Respiratory distress syndrome, non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema, due to sepsis due to impaired microcirculation. Infections including pneumonia and salmonella bacteremia are also very common in patients having malaria due to decreased immunity also. Others, shock, circulatory shock, hypotension, hyperparagia. So come to the diagnosis of malaria. Apart from taking good history, clinical features, look at the examination findings like anemia, jaundice, hepatosplenomegaly. And associated, if patient have a cough, you can go for chest examination. Presented with GIT symptoms, go for other GIT findings. Then we will advise first blood CP, peripheral smear. In peripheral smear, blood CP that will show you decreased hemoglobin level, WBCs may be normal, may be decreased as a part of biocytopenia or pancytopenia due to hypersplenism, thrombocytopenia, and leukocytosis sometimes may be increased WBCs, as we seen in the pneumonia, and salmonella are also common in malaria. So if patient develops secondary bacterial infection like pneumonia, in that condition WBCs may be on a higher side. So malarial parasite, it's very easy to diagnose. We will send 3 consecutive peripheral smears for thick and thin, and thick film is more reliable for identifying the parasite. Thin film is more valuable for identifying the species of parasite. Other diagnostic test, serology, that is not actually a diagnosis of acute infection, but that may be positive in a patient having a prior malaria. Third test, rapid diagnostic test, MP-ICT. ICT means immunochromatographic method, that we mostly identify malarial parasite antigen, and it is quick test. Mostly we are doing this. You can advise to patient from any lab. That is also have a good sensitivity and specificity. Because as far as peripheral smear is concerned, the single sample may not be diagnostic. So we mostly need 3 consecutive samples 8 hours apart during fever without patient have, if patient does not have a fever and second patient have a fever, at that time we have to send the sample. But commonly nowadays we are doing this immunochromatographic test, rapid diagnostic test. Now, other investigations as far as concerned, you can advise patient apart from blood CP and peripheral smear, you can advise X-ray chest if any patient have a simultaneously cough, look for any consolidation. If you are getting spleen, liver during examination, mostly tender, but not always, can be non-tender. You can go for ultrasound abdomen. Third, you can advise blood cultures for as far as differential diagnosis, typhoid fever is concerned. CT scan, neuroimaging, you can advise if you want to exclude any brain abscess or you want to look for cerebral edema. Sometime we can also need lumbar punctures, but not in malaria, to exclude other differential diagnosis. But straight away you identified parasitic malarial parasite and patient have a classical symptoms of malaria, you treat malaria with anti-malarials. So depend upon the severity, if uncomplicated, we simply can prescribe oral medication with paracetamol at home, send back to home. If patient present with severe malaria, we will hospitalize. Apart from general mayors, we will give anti-malarials. General mayors hospitalize, pause NG catheter if unconscious, maintain IV line, correct blood sugar if patient have hypoglycemia, electrolyte imbalance, and then injectable anti-malarial. So look at the slide. There are major anti-malarial drugs. Commonly, we use chloroquine. In our country, chloroquine, quinine sulfate, dihydroartemisinin plus lamifantine, pipraquine, primaquine for relapsing malaria. So first look at the list. There are the chloroquine that is available, Nevaquine, Rasoquine, Amidoquine, like Besoquine, Pipraquine, quinidine, mefloquine, primaquine, sulfadoxine, pyrimethamine, Fansidar. Nowadays it's not being used commonly. Etovaquone, Progonal, Malarone. This combination is not available in the Pakistan. Doxycycline, basically they are the tetracyclines, but it have anti-malarial activity when we add with quinine that have a synergistic effect. Halofentine nowadays banned, not used in Pakistan also, because in the past the patients were facing cardiac arrhythmias with halofentine. There were high mortality rate in patients having a structural cardiac disease. Lumefantrine going to be used still today with combination of dihydroartemisins, artemether, mether. So as far as falciparum is concerned, even Sindh, Balochistan, Punjab, there are studies. Falciparum shows 50% resistance with chloroquine and amidoquine. So otherwise, chloroquine is a very good drug if falciparum is sensitive to chloroquine. If that is resistant, then we prefer dihydroartemisinin, artemether, quinine, oral combinations, lumefantrine plus dihydroartemisins. So how can we know whether patient or that area have a resistance to chloroquine? We generally can see the areas, endemic, hyperendemic areas, there is more common resistance. And then we can see by general survey the whether patient, how patients are going to be treated, with what drug that going to be used in certain areas, and what is the response of chloroquine in those areas. So we can judge. Otherwise, there is no any test available. We can decide whether this patient's falciparum is resistant to chloroquine or not. So mostly we don't take risk. We prefer to give the medications like quinine and second dihydroartemisinin available in injectable form and oral combination pills, lumefantrine plus dihydroartemisinin. So chloroquine sensitive Vivax ovale plasmodium malaria infection. Chloroquine is a drug of choice. It's active against erythrocytic parasite of all human malaria species. The dose of chloroquine 1 gram at day 0 followed by 500 milligram at 6, 24, 48 hours. Our second option, chloroquine phosphate 1 gram at 0, then again 1 gram 24 hours, then 0.5 gram at after 48 hours. Chloroquine rapidly terminate fever 24 to 48 hours and clear parasitemia caused by sensitive parasites. Chloroquine is usually well tolerated even with prolonged use. Side effects are common pruritus, GIT upset, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, headache, anorexia, malaise, blurring of vision, and urticaria are uncommon. So orally, sometimes patient may present with GIT upsets and pruritus, but it's not in all patients. Some of amidoquine, pipraquine, pyronaridine. Amidoquine available with the name of basoquine. Pipraquine is available with combination of dihydroartemisinin. There are many marketing names: Dipip, RTPip, Diphos. That is, we usually give 2 tablets BD for 3 days. Because of its low cost, limited toxicity, pipraquine is conformulated with dihydroartemisinin ACT, as I mentioned the names. Pyronaridine is a benzonephthyridine that is used as a monotherapy to treat malaria, but it's not available in the Pakistan. Uncomplicated infection, simple as I said, you receive patient on OPD ground with mild symptoms, you can treat, send back to home. So chloroquine resistant falciparum agar hai, we use coartem, artemether 20 milligram plus lumefantrine 120 milligram, 4 tablets twice daily for 3 days. But nowadays that is also available, artemether 80 milligram, lumefantrine 480 milligram. That is only 1 tablet BD for 3 days, easy to take with a good compliance. 4 tablets will be difficult, patient will not make it compliance. आप 4 देंगे मरीज 2 खाएगा. Malarone 4 tablets, total of 1 gram. Etoacone that is also not available. Only certain like WHO may be providing to malaria control program. Otherwise, it's not available in the market. Etoacone is not effective when used alone due to rapid development of drug resistance. It is going to be used in chemophilaxis and Plasmodium falciparum. Quinine sulfate mostly used in malaria with pregnancy, even in pediatric age group that is being used in falciparum malaria. It's a very good drug. We need to monitor QT interval after giving quinine sulfate. It may cause sometimes severe hypoglycemia also. So we can combine doxycycline to increase activity, anti-malarial activity. As I said, it has a synergistic effect. Doxycycline, or you can prefer clindamycin, that is available with the name of Delecin C, that is antibiotic. We mostly used for gram-positive organisms like cellulitis, folliculitis, furunculosis, any diabetic foot patients. But it's not commonly used as anti-malarial, as malaria is concerned, but we can use. In areas without new combination regimen oral, quinine sulfate is alternative first-line therapy for uncomplicated falciparum malaria, although poor tolerance may limit compliance. Quinine shorten the duration of use and limited toxicity. Alternative drugs, mefloquine, 15 milligram per kilogram once or 750 milligram, then 500 dihydroartemisinin plus piperacillin. This I already mentioned. Available DPIP, RTPIP, 4 tablets daily means 2 tablet BD for 3 days. So finally, students, don't to be confused after seeing a lot of options for treatment of malaria. Simply you remember chloroquine, right? For falciparum sensitive and Vivax. Then quinine sulfate for mostly falciparum. Third, available 2 combinations in Pakistan. Number 1, this combination, dihydroartemisinin plus piperacillin. Number 2 combination, dihydroartemisinin plus lumefantrine. As I discussed previously, 80 milligram tablet available, that is we can use once a day. Oh, sorry, 1 tablet BD for 3 days. So remember these 2 combinations, quinine and chloroquine, they are sufficient. Don't be confused. As far as severe complicated malaria is concerned, I already mentioned we will hospitalize the patient, we will manage as general measures are concerned, like oxygen, IV line, parenteral catheter. Then we will start parenteral anti-malarial therapy. In parenteral, we will start artesunate 2.4 milligram per kilogram IV every 12 hours for 1 day. Day 1, then 1.6 milligram every 12 hours for 5 to 7 days. Alternative drug, quinidine gluconate, 10 milligram per kilogram IV over 1 to 2 hours, then 0.02 milligram per kilogram. This is weight-based. So artesunate injection is available in 60 milligram, 120 milligram. In adults, we mostly prefer 120 milligram BD for 3 days. But once patient become conscious and able to take orally, eat orally, start combination therapy orally also. Because there are studies, single anti-malarial as like artesunate IV doesn't cure falciparum. So initially you start artesunate, then add combination therapy once patient become conscious. So hopefully 24 to 48 hours patient mostly respond and recover. Then you can send patient to home by prescribing oral combination therapy for 3 days, further 3 days. Second injectable artemether, it was the first injectable antimalarial after quinine and Artem Mether, you might have heard the name of Mether that contain artemether. So we mostly give 3.2 milligram per kilogram IM, then 1.6 milligram per kilogram per day IM. So एक इंजेक्शन में 80 milligram होती है, 80 milligram 1 ampoule, 2 ampoule IM state, then 1 ampoule OD for 4 days. Total dose is approximately 6 ampoules. Anti-malarial drug for prevention of malaria in travelers. Suppose any person who's traveling from non-endemic to endemic areas. So how will you prescribe or advise for chemoprophylaxis? So drug chloroquine areas without resistant plasmodium falciparum. इन एरियाज को विजिट कर रहा है जिसमें falciparum resistance नहीं है, he can take 500 milligram weekly. Malarone areas with multi-drug resistant falciparum, 1 tablet 250 milligram atovaquone combined with 100 milligram proguanil daily. We can advise as a chemoprophylaxis. Another drug, mefloquine, areas with chloroquine resistant falciparum, 250 milligram weekly. Doxycycline, areas with multi-drug resistant falciparum, 100 milligram daily. Primaquine, terminal prophylaxis of Plasmodium vivax and Plasmodium ovale infection. Ovale is not common in our setup, but yes, in Africa. Tefenoquine, it's not available here. Alternative for falciparum prophylaxis 200 milligram once daily for 3 days and then weekly until 1 week after last exposure. So come to the malaria with pregnancy. Which anti-malarial drugs are safe in pregnancy? Chloroquine, yes, it's safe. Actually, generally in first trimester, no drug is safe, but as far as falciparum or severe malaria is concerned, we mostly prefer to save maternal life, not concerned only fetal life. So if you are getting severe malaria with pregnancy, you must start anti-malarial chloroquine, artemether, artemisinin derivative, mefloquine. So available chloroquine, quinine, and artemether. Prevention, elimination of mosquitoes, breeding places, use of mosquito nets, treat with pyrethrine, clothing with full sleeves, use of mosquito repellents, indoor spraying of insecticides. Young children and pregnant women should avoid traveling to areas where malaria is common. Prognosis, when treated appropriately, uncomplicated malaria generally respond well. Severe malaria generally progress to death, but many children respond well to treatment. Pregnant women are at particular risk during their first pregnancy. Malaria in pregnancy also increase the likelihood of a poor pregnancy outcome with increased risk of prematurity, low birth weight, and mortality. Thank you. So any question from audiences? Are you hearing me? Hello, are you hearing me final year?
Yes, sir.
So did you got any difficulty? Any question?
सर डफी एंटीजन कैसे करती है मलेरिया से?
Sorry?
डफी एंटीजन कैसे प्रोटेक्ट करेगी मलेरिया?
Duffy antigen basically they stabilize cell membrane, so there is less chances of hemolysis in patients like I mentioned hemoglobinopathies. They already have mutations with different hemoglobin chains. So already hemolyzed, so RB malarial parasite will not be able to complete life cycle. That's why they don't manifest clinically. Hello, are you hearing me? Hello.
सर पीपीटी शेयर कर दें ग्रुप में.
शेयर की तो है मैंने. शेयर तो की है ना. सबटेन पीपीटी शेयर की कभी ग्रुप में. आवाज अच्छी घुम थी तो
बस वञनि जो हूंदो ईअं कंदी.
इहो त मां करे छॾियो हिकु ॿिनि ॻाल्हायो.
ठीकु आहे बस हाणे तव्हां
शेयर कयो पीपीटी ग्रुप में.
पोइ ईअं त व्हाट्सअप कनेक्ट करणो पवंदो. जीअं व्हाट्सअप ते अचेसि
हा
ईअं पोइ वरी हुनखे चवणो पवंदो त फाइनल ईयर में शेयर करे.
हू पाणे करे छॾींदो न.
हा न